Hi, hello. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you. To those that I have not met, I hope we get to meet at some time in the future. And I'm really happy to be here with you. And as if I mentioned, this is going to be a 6 weeks Log Alto basic training. I want to make that emphasis on basic. So we are going to go through all of the different components in Logalto. Um, Especially today. Today it's going to be an introduction on Logalto and doing some very basic stuff. So please bear with me if you are a little bit more advanced. But I promise you, I will do my best to make this meaningful, and I hope you will finish even today with some sort of learning. Um, the following weeks, we will have a different topic for different weeks. And we will have in the middle also some theory because we believe it's very important to have some theory before we actually go into Logalto, because at the end, Logalto is a technical tool and we need to know some stuff before we go into the technical part of it, right? So actually next week, it's going to be about log frames. Our colleague from Adra Canada, Alison, who couldn't join today because of the time difference, she's going to be doing that next week. And then we will have logframe with Dan Len, and then we will go to some other topics on databases, analytics, and activities. And the methodology, because it's online, it's a little bit tricky to have an actual do something and follow what I'm doing, because maybe many of you have only one screen that you are seeing right now. So it's difficult for me to demonstrate something and then copy it in your own computer. So having said that, we have been thinking a lot and reflecting on how we could do this the best way. And we decided that this training will be focused on demonstrating how to do some stuff, demonstrating how to do basic activities in Logalto, how to set things up. And then, as Ibai mentioned, we'll have some assignments. These assignments are basically homework. I'm sorry. But I promised it's going to be very simple, very easy. And it's actually replicating what we are doing on each day, right? So today we will be creating a project, for example, and that project is going to be the assignment. Then I will share with you later during this call a link where you will find both the presentations that we do, the recordings once they are ready, and an Excel sheet. In that Excel sheet, you will put your name, you will put your email, and you will put the project that you create, and then our team will look at those projects that you have created and we will send you feedback. In the meantime, our core team of facilitators, uh, Anlen, Joseph, and me, will be on all the sessions because the group is very big. Maybe we don't have time to have many questions during the session. But if you have any question at any moment during this session, please write it on the chat. I think it's enabled. Let me just make sure. Yeah, the chat is enabled. And one of the colleagues who is not presenting at the moment will be looking at the chat and will be answering your questions. So having said that, let's just go into Log Alto. So actually, I am right now in Fiji, and I just gave this presentation yesterday. So it's very fresh. It's very fresh. So I hope you learned something. And please, can someone just confirm if you can see my screen? Any sort of signal that
Yes,
you can actually see it?
yes, we can.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you very much. So this is a simple presentation that I like to start and that I like to use to introduce Logalto to people. And this is what I call Logalto Survival Kit. I believe that Logalto has been introduced in many ways to you. Most likely, it was presented as a thing to do forms, or maybe a thing to, make project management, or maybe it was presented to you as something that very different to what it really is. The reality is that Logalto really has a limit to what it can do, but that limit is, I like to say, your imagination. Because Log Alto is actually a database, and a database, as we will see in part of this course, is an Excel sheet. So basically, if you can think of an Excel sheet, you can also most likely also do it in Log Alto. But before we actually reach that point, before we reach that point of making Log Alto very useful for you, we have some things that we actually need to do as part of our, as part of being part of the ADRA network. I'm sure at some point in your ADRA life, someone has come to you and has told you, hey, your project needs to be in Log Alto. And many times that your project needs to be in Log Alto goes to a very basic extent of just creating the project, adding what is the primary tomography, and adding maybe some expenses on that. So we are going to be covering exactly that today, because even though I think we can do much more with Log Alto, first we need to comply with whatever we have to do. And that is actually the very basic foundation of how to extend to do something more advanced. So if you are expecting to go immediately into activities and how to do the project report and how to do the log frames, that's coming eventually, I promise, but we will start with the very basics because, again, this is a basic Log Alto training. So let's start. What is Log Alto, first of all? So Log Alto, as defined by DevAlto, DevAlto is the company that created Log Alto, is a collaborative web-based monitoring and evaluation system for international NGOs and nonprofit. That's the definition that Log Alto gives. And from my perspective, Log Alto is a combination of three things: databases, a project management system, and Power BI dashboard. And in the middle, you have Log Alto. So when you hear that, maybe if at some point in your life you have done a database management with a proper database management software, or if you have a project management system that maybe you design or you bought to someone, or if you are very experienced with Power BI dashboards or with any other tool for analysis of data, you will realize that Log Alto is not perfect at any of this. And that's the first realization that I want you to understand. Log Alto is a combination of things, and it makes all of those things well enough, but it's not perfect at any of these. So if you are just expecting a perfect database management system, a perfect project management system, maybe you will be a little bit disappointed when you find some of the very most advanced tools of those softwares not being in Log Alto. But I promise you, once you start using it, I would say 85 to 90% of the things that you would do in any of these systems will actually be in Log Alto. The other 10%, I promise you, you can find a way around with custom forms. Custom forms are really a marvelous thing, and I hope you discover that when we have that session. So something additional that you need to know about Log Alto is that Log Alto has been part of ADRA for several years, I think maybe 7, 8 years. And it was at some point tailored for ADRA Australia way of working. And Log Alto has, until today, remained like that. We are making a lot of work on changing that. Last month, we met all members of LASSOF, we met in person, and we identified those things that need to be changed. So we are expecting to update a little bit the system in terms of the questions. Don't worry, it's not going to change drastically in a way that it will be a completely different system. No, it will just make your life easier, or at least that's what we intended. So just keep that in mind when we are working with Log Alto. There are many things that right now maybe don't make sense to the way that you work, or there are some things, some questions that maybe are not very relevant, maybe some disaggregations for indicators that are not really the way you work. Just, I wanted you to know the background behind of why it's like that. But then I will also be talking to you, especially in this session, about things that are needed for your project to work and things that are needed just because it's nice to have some information. So, the first message that I want to share with you as well is please lose fear of using Logalto. The best way to understand and learn Logalto is practice. Like anything else in life, the practice makes perfect. And that is also true for Logalto. And something that I hear a lot, and I was telling you, I am currently doing this same training in person this week, and there was someone saying, I'm scared that I will make something silly that people will see, and maybe my supervisor will be really mad at me that I created something weird, or maybe I accidentally delete something. So there's three different perspectives that you have when it comes to what people can see in Logalto. There's the personal view, there's the regional view, and there's the network view. So if you are working a project in your country, let's say I make a project in, let's imagine I make a project in Croatia, and I create that project, and that project is going to be visible by everyone in ADRA Europe. Now, can they come and modify some things? Maybe some accounts. For example, we have here Jose, and I know that Jose, for example, he may have a regional account, so he may be able and go and modify things. But if you don't make it public, most likely people will never know that you created a project and you're playing around with it. I will show you how to keep that private, of course. But of course, that as well can be made public. Also, the log frames for that project, those can be personal, but those log frames can also be shared with your whole region. So that's when you have to start thinking, oh, should I share this with someone? Should I change my project status so it can be visible or not? Then we have project reports and project data. Most importantly about these two are the what we call primary demography. I will be talking a little bit more on that later, and how much you have spent in your project. And when I say this, I just mean the big number. I just mean, this project has been 100,000 euros project, or this project has been a 10,000 beneficiaries project. That's only thing that the whole network can see. But again, you can decide if it is that actually the case or not, if the network is actually going to see that or not. So, other than that, everything else that you do, custom forms, analytics, and your mistakes will not be seen by anyone. So please, I encourage you to go into Logalto, play around with it, and I promise you, you can do any kind of weird stuff and no one will notice. But that weird stuff that you do will be very good for you to practice and understand all the little things that you can actually do. I was talking with a colleague this morning who was very excited because she made a project and she was testing all the things that she was scared of changing in her real project, in a dummy project, and then she was just implementing those changes to her real project once that she noticed that those were not there. I will show you as well how to make your dummy projects without affecting the network's dashboard, for example. So please feel free to play around with Logalto. Nothing will happen. And if you delete something, it can be recovered. Just for your information, because I know that data privacy is very important, and we are dealing with information from people in sometimes very vulnerable situations, and privacy is one of our biggest priorities. The information that is stored in Logalto is actually not owned, or should I say stored by Logalto themselves. It's actually stored in a secure server owned by ADRA, managed by ADRA. I think it's actually somewhere in Europe. I'm not really sure exactly where. I think it's in Ireland, something like that. So Logalto is not really storing any of our information. Logalto is just pulling information from that Astra server, showing that in your screen. So if at some point you delete something, you're not really deleting something. It's actually Logalto just not showing the information that you deleted. Eventually it will be deleted, but if you make a mistake, you can contact the Balto and they will recover that for you. It takes some time. It is a little bit annoying, but also I just want to reassure you that nothing bad will happen if you just use Logalto. So again, this is a basic Logalto training, so I have to go to the basics. So now I'm going to shift my screen to Logalto screen. So I hope that all of you here have your own personal account. If you don't have a personal account, please let's create one because I think it will be very useful. And also, I hope that you have the right setup for you to do all the exercise that we are going to be doing. If at some point you don't have access to do any of the exercises, please let us know and we will try to fix that. So once you go into Logalto, most likely you will see something like this. I think this is the default view in Logalto. And what I want to show you here is that Logalto has four areas. First, you have this green Adra green bar. I have here my name, the notifications, the settings. That's just there. Then we have this dark gray bar here on the left. We have all the different tools that Logalto has: dashboard, projects, log frames, custom forms, files, analytics. And this is the one that for me is the most important. This is the gray bar. When I say during this session, the gray bar, I mean this light gray bar here at the top. This gray bar will always have at the top right corner buttons that are relevant for the section that we are working with. So I have here in the main page, I am in the dashboard. So I have my dashboard and global dashboard. And then the fourth section is just the middle, wherever you are working with. But that's very self-explanatory. So the first thing that I want you to learn about Logalto, and because I will be talking a lot about this, is the global dashboard. So you click here in the gray bar, global dashboard, and you will see this. You can also call this the networks dashboard or Logalto's dashboard, whatever you want to call it. But I usually just call it networks dashboard. Logalto calls it global dashboard. Anyway, it's really, it's okay. And what you can see here is basically a summary of all the information that is stored in Logalto. So, for example, you have here, it goes by year. So you have year 2025. I know that there's 96 countries that have a project active in 2025. There's a total of 1,290 projects, these many beneficiaries, and this much money has been spent. I will talk about this later. It could be a little bit confusing. And then you have all the different divisions. So if you see, and if you open the divisions, you will see that you have some empty spaces. We will talk about that later. And then you have the countries. I will open, let's say I will open Poland. And if I open Poland, you can see we have some projects here. And then we can see that for each project, you have this number of beneficiaries for 2025 and this much money spent in 2025. So this is the global dashboard. This is the information that it's the most basic that we need to report. Again, we can go much deeper, but we have to start with the basics. And the basics is making sure that our information is here, because before we actually get some benefit from it, we need to actually comply with the things that we need to do, and it's this dashboard. But as we progress with these trainings, you will realize that this report is actually done by Logalto automatically. When we talk about custom forms, when Anlen talks about the log frame, you will realize that these kind of reports that you are required to do every year or every so often are actually done by log Alto if you just do your regular work. So a report that is required to you, or a report that you are requiring from maybe your that you are being required by a supporting office, or that a supporting office is being required to do and submit to a supporting office, that is actually the result of their daily work. That is the way it should be. A report should not be, at least in terms of log Alto, a report should not be an additional task. It should be just the result of your daily use of log Alto. So this is the dashboard. There are some other tools here that you can test, like you can filter by supporting office, by implementing office, by tags, and you can change the years. So you can go to 2024, you can go to 2026. Let me go to 2026. There's 80 projects with active, 80 countries with active projects, 765 projects, this much beneficiaries and budget. Right. Now, let me show you what happens if we create a project. So I have my presentation here. As I was telling you, we are going to be uploading everything to a folder that I will be sharing with you. And as you can see, this is a step-by-step guide on everything. You have some red arrows there to tell you where to click and go to the different sections. I think this will be helpful for you when you are doing the assignments. I know that it's going to be difficult right now to just replicate at the same time. So I hope this is helpful for you once you are trying to do in your own time these exercises. So we have now to do the most basic thing in log Alto, create a project. So we go on the dark gray bar, we have projects. I will click on projects. And what you will see here is most likely, if this is the first time that you are using log Alto, it will most likely look something like this. It will look like a lot of boxes here. Maybe it actually looks like this. And what you are seeing actually here is whatever your account has access to. Most likely you will have a a national account, meaning you will only see your own projects from your own country. It is likely that you may have a regional account, so you would see projects from a lot of countries in Azra, Europe. And it is also likely that if you are working, for example, for a supporting office, you will see projects from multiple regions. So don't expect to see exactly the same thing as I am seeing right now. Just so you know, this is the general view. Remember, I told you the gray bar at the top is the most important section from my perspective. And you have these two buttons. This is grid view, and then you have list view. I always recommend to use the list view because now you see the projects in a table way. And for me, it's more useful like this because I have more information. I have the title, I have when it starts, when it ends, the status, budget, and some other information that's relevant for the projects. So everything in log Alto works exactly the same. Again, the key to log Alto is repetition, and thankfully log Alto has exactly the same way of working in all of its sections. And every single time that you want to create something, you just have to look for the big green button with a plus, with a plus sign. So I want to create a project. I will create one with this big green button with a plus sign. And this is what I will get. I will get this panel here. And this panel, it's going to show me a form. And this is also relevant, I think, every single time you create something, every single time you click on something in log Alto, you will see a panel like this, and this panel will most likely contain a form. A form is basically a questionnaire, a set of questions that you need to answer to create whatever you want to create. So let me show you here the very end. So you have here on the presentation, on the left side, you have the different questions from this form, like title, description, and then I have here as well on the right where each of those questions is going to go once you create your project dashboard. Let me quickly take a screenshot of this so I have something to use. Okay, so I was telling you earlier, Log Alto has this historical component and that there are some questions that may not be very relevant to the way we work. Or there are some things that are very relevant to the way we work today that maybe are not very well signalized in Log Alto. So I will not go in order of the things that you need to see. I will not go in the same order as in the form. I will be skipping some things because first I want you to really understand the things that you really, really, really need for your project to work. Everything else that is not necessary for your project to work is just something what I call of informative nature. And what I mean by this is basically information that is really nice to have. But if you don't, nothing bad will happen. So for example, with the colleagues that I am working on these week sessions, most of the people are from implementing offices, implementing partners. So in most cases, I know that supporting partners have specific requirements to some specific fields. In those scenarios, well, yeah, you have to actually fill everything or whatever they are requesting from you. But if you are working alone, or if if you just want to make a functioning project, a functional project, this is the information that you need to make sure that is very, very well. Now, first we have the code or acronym. Let me show you again in the networks dashboard. In the networks dashboard, you see all of the projects, and I'm sorry if there is someone from Poland in this session, but I just randomly selected Poland previously, and I will just keep using Poland because you have been chosen. So you have here some projects here, and you see for all of the projects you have first, in this case, you have EM 24106, and then you have a space, dash, space, and then the title for the project. The same is true for, let's say, the last one, PLND 2025 KSPUR, space, dash, space, and the title. Everything that is before this long dash with the spaces, that is the code or acronym. People always ask, what is the right thing to put in code or acronym? Please, if I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think as of today, there is no network agreement on what is supposed to go there. So
That's true. That is true.
okay, great. Having said that, it doesn't mean that you cannot make that useful for you. Let me show you a very nice example that I really like, and it's Inter-America Division. Inter-America Division, they decided to make all of the projects follow a very specific coding system. So you see, there is first the letters that are related to the country. So El Salvador is SV, and then we have a dash, and then it's the year when the project first started. And then there is a dash and a consecutive number of the project that started that year. So that we know that this project here, the first one, is the fourth project that El Salvador started in 2024. We have then, I think South America is following a very similar example. So in Chile, for example, yeah, you have the name of the two letters for the country, then you have the year, a dash, and then you have a number. I believe that Adra Africa has already started doing something similar. And of course, there is other situations like emergencies. I know that EMU has their own coding system. So in those situations, well, you have to use the EMU code, right? I can think, for example, of at Australia. There is a very specific coding system for the projects that are coming from international programs. So the teams who are the implementing partners who are working with Ad Australia, they have to use that coding. If you don't have one system, I really recommend that you start using your own system that you can define either at a country level, or you can use as a regional level, maybe. Now that everyone is here, maybe you can at some point in the future agree on a coding system. It will be looking really nice because it's really easy to identify what's going on. But at this moment, again, there is no real agreement on what should be here. So for the purposes of this training, I will be calling this project, sorry, I will be using um, this code will be ADRA Europe training. Let's call it, sorry, it's A AET, and I will say 2026. Let's make this our code. This is not the right way, maybe, but this is just a code that we'll be using. And now we will be working with a very interesting project that our colleague Anlen designed. This is a project on education. So I will be talking when I am doing my the cases here. I will be talking about education as well. So let me just take my little note that I created for this project. Okay, so I have the project name, and that is my title. My title is basically, again, let me show you here in the dashboard. It's whatever it's going to be shown to the network that I am calling my project. So I know, for example, EKS volunteering project, integration services for refugee and third country migrants. So that is my title. Title is very important because, of course, it's going to be the way that all people will be identifying your project, and it will be very visible in your project. You see, it's at the very top in the dashboard. It is shown in the network's dashboard, so it's very important. Now, I will skip description. And I will skip description for now because I was telling you there are some things that are more important than others when it comes to making your project work. If you don't have a description in your project, nothing bad will happen. Your project will still work perfectly. Does it mean that you don't have to put a description? Well, that it's really up to you or up to the partner with whom you are working with, or um, your own preference. But really, I was telling you, this is information that is really nice to have. So if the more information you have, the better. The best description you have, the better, right? But again, you don't need it for your project to work. That's the key component. So now we have start date and end date. Start date and end date are necessary for your project in many ways. And I believe this is one of the most important cases because start date and end date are actually going to be what's going to define, first of all, the reporting period for your project. That's number one. It will define the length of your log frame. So your log frame cannot go before and it cannot go after start on or end date. And your baseline for your log frame. So you cannot have anything that is outside of these states. There are some consideration, of course. Some people will say, we just had an emergency. So we deliver some food or we deliver, I know, cash vouchers. Um, so it's only a 1 day activity. Logalto does not let me put just 1 day. That is true. Logalto needs to have at least a difference of 1 day. It needs to be at least 1 day difference, right? And people say, but it was only 1 day. Yeah, but in reality, you know that no project is only 1 day, right? Because before your project actually starts its implementation, you had some meetings for planning, you had to get some budget from somewhere. And after the activity, you have to sit down and make the reports. You have to have more meetings. So a project is never really 1 day. So just go and put um, any date that is longer than 1 day. Now, another part that is really important for start date and end date is the networks dashboard. So you see in the networks dashboard, we have years, 2025, we have 2024, we have 2026. Sometimes people will create a project and maybe they will not see it in the log frame because the log frame is not actually because the project is not actually happening on that year. For your project to appear in 1 year, you need to have at least 1 day of the year that you want. For example, if I want my project to appear in 2026, it is the same if my project starts in January 1st or if it starts on December 31st. Any of those days I select or any other day in the middle will make my project appear in the whole 2026 dashboard. And the reports will be assigned to that year. So if you don't want to have your project reported on 2020, whatever, just don't include that year. If you want to include your project in one specific year, include at least 1 day of that year. I have seen this happen. We had this project in Mexico a few years ago with a hurricane. The hurricane was at some point in December, but we only had results until January because of different circumstances. The project appeared in December of I think it was 2022 or 2020, yeah, 2022. It was appearing there, but the project was showing zero progress, zero beneficiaries, zero money spent, and everything was just in 2025. So then, you have to decide where is it the best case to actually put your project. So keep those things into consideration when you select your start date and end date. For the purposes of this example, I will be working with 3 years. So I will start on January 2026, the first day. You see, when you want to select the date, you have this button here and you will see this calendar and you can just select the date. Or you can also go for something like this. I don't like the calendar function personally. I prefer to just type. So it's going to be 3 years. So it's 26, 27, 28. Sorry, 28. And then I'm going to make it all the way until December. And then I will complete this on the 31st. Now, something that you have to know as well. Once you have your dates and also all the information that we are doing right now, you can change that later. No problem at all. Everything can be changed later. Everything that we are doing right now can be changed because people will say, hey, what happened? So we are designing a 3 years project. What happens if at the end of year one, it's actually canceled? Or what if at the end of the third year it's actually extended? Don't worry, you can just come here and just update the update the dates. No issue at all. You can come back here and modify the dates or by following that same logic, any other information in your project, right? So now we have status. This is very important, especially if you want to do a dummy project and you want to test some things. I have seen sometimes some countries, this is not bad. I kind of like to see it because it means people is learning. The countries have in the networks dashboard some projects that says something like test. test project, training project. And, I'm actually doing one of those, right? So how do you define if your project is actually going to be shown in the dashboard or not? So you have this field that says status. If my project is active or completed, my project will appear in the dashboard. If my project is not active or completed, meaning my project is set as an idea, my project is in approval phase, or my project is canceled or deleted, it will not appear. So for the purposes of this week's assignment, let's try and make this project active. So the purpose of this training is to have your project appear on the network's dashboard, right? So it's going to be active. At the end of the training, please remember, delete your project or hide it by changing the status to cancel or deleted or idea or something else. But for the purposes of you learning how to do it, please make it active so it can appear in the dashboard and we can make sure that you learn that. Now, the next section we have here is implementing Office and supporting Office. Now, this is very interesting because you see here, you have supporting Office with a red star, which means that supporting Office is a mandatory field and implementing Office is not. So, when you are working with Logalto, Logalto was originally designed, as I was mentioning earlier, to fit some specific needs at the time. And at the time, all of the projects were understood or were assumed to have a ADRA supporting office. The reality today is that not all of the projects have that. I know that many of you may come from a supporting office, so this will slightly be slightly different for you. But I know there are many implementing offices that work alone. And what I mean alone, I mean with no other ADRA office. So what happens if you are working alone, let's say with UNICEF, or you are working alone with the World Food Program, or you are working alone with WHO, someone else, and you don't have a supporting office? What happens in those cases? There are many things that can happen, right? So I have this table here, and you can see here, I have the blue box is for implementing, the supporting is, the green is for supporting, and then I have this imaginary project that is happening in Mexico, supported by Australia. This is just an imaginary project, right? And these are the 6 different things that we can do. If we let implementing Office blank, because it's not a mandatory question, but we have our supporting office, which is Australia, there, what will happen is that I, coming from Mexico, created a project, and once I click save and my project is submitted, I will see this screen. I don't know if any of you have ever seen this screen, but this means that you don't have access to that project. It doesn't really mean that the page doesn't exist, like it says here. It means that your account doesn't have access to that specific project. So, what does that mean as well? It means that right now, our accounts in Logalto are set for a specific country, and that country is in a specific region in ADRA. So you can see the projects in your country. You can most likely modify the projects in your country, but also you cannot see things that are happening outside of your region. So if I create a project in Mexico, which is in Enter America division, and I just click Supporting Office Australia, which is in SPD, and I just click Submit, and I don't put myself in Implementing Office, even though I created the project will effectively disappear for me. And this is really annoying. And if you are from a supporting office, I am guessing maybe something like this has happened to you. Or if you are an implementing office and you have worked with someone in another supporting office, I hope this has not happened to you. But basically, what you would have to do is that you would have to find someone from that office, and you would have to email them like, hey, I created a project. I accidentally lost access to that project. Please find it for me and add me as a project editor, or add my country to the implementing office. And it's just time consuming, and it's just really annoying. So my key message here is always, 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 at least one of these fields needs to be your own office. If your own office is not there, you will most likely lose access to your project. The best case scenario in a project, let's imagine I'm working in Mexico and I am working alone with UNICEF. The best case scenario for that would be that I just put, Mexico in implementing, and I leave supporting in blank because there is no one in ADRA supporting me. In ADRA, that's the key word here, in ADRA. But the reality is that Logalto right now is set up for supporting mandatory, and implementing is not. So I cannot really submit this to Logalto. Logalto will stop me if I try to do this. So my recommendation, if you are working alone right now, even though it's not the best in terms of data cleanliness, is just put the same country twice. If I were working alone, this is how it would look like. Mexico in both implementing and supporting. Now, another case, going back to the example of having a supporting office, an ADRA supporting office, is that I can put the supporting office in both fields. That means that I would actually lose access to the project as well. So let's not do that. If we have this other example, this is good because, if I put both offices as implementing and supporting the actual supporting office, it will work in terms of visibility, but it will not really work in terms of good practices. So I do not recommend this. I think there is someone with the open microphone. I would really appreciate if you can turn it off. And then we have the best case scenario, the best practice, which is putting the actual implementing and the actual supporting office in in both fields. Now, for this assignment that we will be doing today, we are a team of many people who will be reviewing the assignments, and we are from different countries. We have, as you heard, colleagues from Anlen, our colleague from Europe. We have Joseph from Africa, and we will have some other colleagues from Africa, from Asia, and from Inter-America reviewing this project. So, because we need to make sure that you completed all the necessary steps, I will ask you, and I will put this in writing in the document that I will be sharing with you. You need to add all of the offices in our Africa region into the supporting office, so we can have access and review your projects. But again, I will leave that by writing later. Just keep that in mind, because we are going to be reviewing your projects. I think in the case of Anlen, you should not have any problem with reviewing all of the projects, because you should be able to see everything from Europe. But in the case of Joseph, for example, and our colleagues from ASRA Africa that will be also reviewing the projects, and our colleagues from ASRA Asia and Inter-America. We do need to have that as well, but I will let you know. So you set that up correctly. Don't forget about it. And now we have implementing Office. I will make this project. Mexico. And I will make supporting Office. Following this example, I will make Norway. I will make this project also in supporting Office. Africa Regional Office. And I will just leave it like that for now. So now you see that the dashboard is actually containing here the different divisions, and then you have the different countries, right? This is not related to implementing or supporting Office. And I want to stress this again. This is not related to implementing and supporting Office. Logic says it is, but it is not. You see here the name of the column, projects by location. So you see this field, I will skip the photo and I come here to location. So you see, we have this field that says location. We have this button here. And it's not mandatory. For some reason, this is not mandatory, but we will make it mandatory. This is one of the things that I was telling you we are working on improving. This will be mandatory soon because this field here that it's just very randomly placed there and doesn't really have like a place to write locations. That is what defines where in the dashboard your project is going to end up. You see here, I apologize if one of your projects is actually shown in this following example, but I hope that if it is shown, you take this as an opportunity to fix it. You see, we have here the divisions, and before the divisions, we have this row here that is blank. And you see, it says project by location, blank. If I open this thing, I have another blank row. And then I open this one again, and I have here all of these projects that have been created that do not have a location. All of these projects lack a location. So I will hide this, and I will show you a different example. We have Europe region. We have all of the countries, and all of the countries have their projects. This is very nice. But at the top, before Albania, we have a blank row. And if I open this blank row, you see I have 7 projects that do not have a country. This means that these projects were actually assigned to Europe, but then no country was assigned these countries. Now, you have here locations, right? As always with Logalto, remember everything is exactly the same. So if you want to add something, just look for the big green add button, click on it, and you will see this panel coming up. So you see this panel, and you see the different locations. These projects here in the dashboard that are here under Europe, but not under any country, means that they just clicked on Europe, and that's everything that they did. As you can see, Logalto just lets me save it like that. I can just go ahead and save this like Europe Regional Office, and Logalto is okay with it. Logalto doesn't really stop you from doing things wrong. Well, sometimes it does. I will let you know when that is true. But in this specific case, it will just let you do it wrong. So it's good that you know better and that you know that you need to have at least a country level being shown here at the bottom. So if I go to I will make this project Norway. And is that okay if I make this Norway for the purposes of the log frame?
Yes, yes, no problem.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I will open this one, and you have these arrows here. So I will click this arrow, and then I have countries. I have the countries. And you see, some of the countries actually have an extra arrow here. So Norway doesn't have it. So I will show an example with which of these do I know? I don't know any of these. I will open Romania. And you see, under Romania, there is an additional geographical political division. So as you can see, not all of the countries actually have that. That's something that we would like to change at some point in the sooner than later future. But if your country doesn't have a a next political division, don't worry about it. As long as you have a country showing up here, that's perfect. Remember, it's not enough to have the division. You need to see your country here. And I will show you just very quickly with Romania. I will choose, let's go for Alba. And you see, I have selected as well Alba. I have Alba here, the name of this state or a community. I'm not really sure what is Alba. But then you have here the name of the country. I can rest assured that my project will appear when it is supposed to be appearing because I can see the country. I can see Romania and I can see Norway. Good. It will appear. But now, what happens is if I save it like this? I have Norway and I have Romania. It means that my project will appear both in Norway and it will appear as well in Romania in the dashboard. And it will show exactly the same information. Does it mean the information is being duplicated? No, it doesn't. It's not being counted twice. It's just appearing twice for the purposes of the dashboard. But the numbers, I promise you, they are not being duplicated. I just wanted to mention this because it happens very often. It is a common complaint or a common misconception when we are working with multi-country projects that it could be the case that if the projects are sharing one single project dashboard, the information will be appearing multiple times in the dashboard. But again, that does not mean that that Log Alto is duplicating information. So I will close that. I will click select. And now all the information that I need for my project to work is there. I don't need to add anything additional. And at this moment, I can guarantee you that my project is working. So for today's assignment, you have to complete all of these steps to make sure that your project is working. So I will repeat those components. It's code or acronym, it's title, start and end date, very important, status, which will determine if the project is hidden or not from the dashboard, implementing Office, even though it is not a mandatory field. Then we have the supporting Office. Remember, for the assignment, please add Norway and add Africa Regional Office and add as well Inter-America Division. And then you have locations. Again, locations and implementing offices are not mandatory fields, but these are very important for the purposes of your project working properly. By the way, I just wanted to mention something additional in locations that I forgot. There is a box here at the top to search. This is perfectly acceptable to do it. It's very easy to just search for the location. I just want you to recommend that if you look for any specific region, make sure that you are actually selecting the correct one, because it happened recently. There is an Armenia in Armenia, and there's also an Armenia in El Salvador, and there is also an Armenia in Colombia. So we were working the other day with people in Inter-America. We were just reviewing the projects, and we just found that there were a few Armenian projects in El Salvador, for example, and in Colombia. So just keep that in mind. I just wanted to mention that. Be careful with what you select here, because you might be assigning a project to another country that maybe they don't even know what that is, right? So now my project is working, right? So I was telling you, there are many other fields that are really nice to have, because those fields will be giving you extra information for your project. So I will show you here this very simple example. I will come back here. I will add this description that says a 3-year project aimed at improving access to quality education in children in communities through teaching, training, increasing school enrollment, and enhance learning outcomes and literacy. So I will have that description. Let me quickly look for a picture here, education project. Let's just select one random picture from the internet. This one looks really nice. I will save this one, and then I will come back here. I will go to the picture section, and I think this is it. Yes, this is it. So I have now a description, I have a photo, and then remember, all of the following fields are really nice to have, but not necessary. I will go very quickly to tell you what these are. I will not be filling this. Please feel free to fill those when you are working with your assignment. So you have supporting office contact, principal contact. Again, there is no agreement on what these are actually supposed to mean. I can give you the example of Alto Australia. For supporting office contact, the person who will be appearing there will be the project manager, the programs manager assigned to that project. And in principal contact, we would have the contact in the implementing office who's in charge of the project. Then we have this that says partners. Partners, as you can see here, it's intended for non-ADRA entities involved with the project. So you can look here for some entities here. I will look for, let's look if there is Ministry of Education, maybe. Oh yeah, there's Ministry of Education. So let's imagine we are working with the Ministry of Education. Something that it's a little bit unfortunate right now is that if you don't find a partner that you are interested in working with, right now we don't have access to adding new partners. We'll be working on that, don't worry. But at the moment, we cannot add new partners here. Then we have sectors. There is a list of sectors here that you can choose from. Something that I want to mention here is that sometimes you would be working with a project outside of Logalto. You will do all your project design outside of Logalto. And you will, of course, not be thinking about Logalto if you're doing it outside. So sometimes you would go and select a sector that's extremely specific, like child education, for example. And if you open here, you will see that child education is not there, but you have education only. So to prevent having some frustrations in the problem, in the future, just come into Logalto and check this list and make sure that the sector you are defining is actually here, so you don't have issues later when you want to set it up. And yeah, I just wanted to share that because as well, you cannot add new sectors at this moment. If you want to make this a little bit more specific, you have subsectors, and then you also have cross-cutting issues. You can choose from this list, maybe child protection, climate change, disability. You can make this more specific. And if you are working with DAC codes, for example, I know some of the offices in Android Europe are working with DAC codes. You can as well make this more specific. And then you have this field that says supporting office account number. This is one of those fields that actually, as I was telling you, are here from a very historical context aspect of Localto. So if you don't know what this is, uh, and you don't put anything there, don't worry, nothing will really happen. Nothing will be taking this information from there. And then we have tags as well. Unfortunately for tags, you cannot add new tags at this moment. So I hope you find what you need there, because I want you to think about the future. It's good to have tags because at some point in the future, we may like to do some analysis of projects by tags. So if you have tags, it's really nice. But at this moment, because you cannot add new tags, it may be the case that you cannot find what you need to add. We have an emergency, so you can select from different types of emergencies what you want to define your project, but this is only true if your project is an emergency. And then we have advisor and we have contacts. These two fields are exactly the same thing. So you see, if you open contacts, you will see a list of people, and you will see here a list of emails. And if I open advisor, it's actually the exact same list of people. And in this case, I can add new people from here. If I click this button here, I will be seeing a new form. And this new form is letting me create a new contact. And something that is very important for this specific section is that the person that you add as a contact is not going to be actually notified. So keep that in mind if you want someone um, to actually hear, to actually be notified. You will most likely not have that person notified. I don't know why my internet is a little bit slow. And this is not loading. I apologize for that. This is my internet. I'm sorry about this. It's my internet connection going a little bit slow. So while this ends loading, while my internet recovers, let me just finish with these other fields. And once we create the project, we will see the different fields that we have just created. Again, this you can find in the presentation that I shared with you. And you will be able to just see then in the project's dashboard how the information that you put, it's going to be translated into the dashboard of the project. So you see you have the picture here, you have the description right below the picture. So I was telling you, this information that you have at the top is the one that is going to be the most visible to the people who is actively going into your project. If you don't actively go to your project, then you will not actually be able to see this information. So let me stop sharing for a moment so I can refresh this. I can refresh this really quickly. So I don't know why my internet is a little bit slow. So I will stop for a moment and I will let you ask questions if you have any questions while I figure out why my internet is so slow. So maybe anyone has a question, or maybe our colleagues, Ellen or Joseph, do you have any question from the chat that you think it's very relevant to share with the whole group?
There's one unanswered one, Esteban, which Vladimir has asked. Hi, I'm having an issue with the status field. It doesn't allow me to select any option.
Okay, this happens sometimes, and it actually happens to many different fields, not only to that. But let me tell you, this is actually related not to Logalto, but this is related to the browser that we are using. I always recommend that you use Chrome or Firefox if possible for Logalto, because that issue sometimes happen in other browsers. And what you have to do is basically just use your keyboard arrows and select something else. For example, just open the status field and just click the arrows, and it will just let you move around the status and just click enter once you have reached the one that you want. Please try that and let me know if that works. Any other question?
Esteban, you used the term dark, you remember? If you could just explain what dark is.
Dark?
Yes, when you're talking about the dark codes.
The DAC
Yeah,
codes.
yes.
Yes. The DAC codes, actually, I think, Unlend, you are the one who knows about DAC codes because I think you use it. So I don't know if you want to take on this question.
Yeah, I can just put it in the chat as well. There. So DAC is the OECD Development Assistance Committee. So they have certain categories that we, like if you work with a project in Europe, you might want to categorize it as per the Development Assistance Committee's categories, basically, I think.
Thank you. Okay, so I fixed my thing. I apologize for that. Yeah. I will have a few more questions at the end. Thank you for the questions. Thank you, Ellen, for the DAC, for the DAC question. And we have as well, we were here in the advisor and in the contacts. I was telling you, you can create a new one. If you add a new one, or if you select one that is already there, just so you know, that person will not be notified. So don't expect that to happen. Then we have these two fields that say budget total and budget local. Now, budget total and budget local are actually, and I apologize for disappointing you, not going anywhere. That's why I did not talk about this when I was talking about where the information is going into the log frame. You see, we have this big number here that says budget. Budget actually is coming from a different area in Logalto. It's not coming from here. So this number in budget total and budget local is actually only visible to people who have access to your project and people who not only have access but actively go into your project and try to look at it. So again, it's very recommended. I highly recommend that you put your actual budget there. But if you do something weird in this area, you can rest assured that it's not going into any report, because the information in the dashboard is actually coming from a different field that I will show you now. So I will change this to euros. And then I will say that maybe my budget local is the same amount. And then we have donors. Donors is basically entity. So again, there is no official statement from the network on what is supposed to be here. But the difference between donors and partners, the way that I like to see it, it doesn't mean it's the right way, but it's the way that I like to see it, is that a partner is a non-ADRA entity that is not actually giving you money.
Esteban, is
Yes.
everybody able to see your screen? Because I'm seeing black only.
Oh,
Just checking. Is everybody seeing the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Works in the
Yes.
correctly.
Yes.
Okay, then the problem is mine. It's okay.
okay. I stopped and I reshare. So I hope that helps to someone who had any issues. Okay. So then you can select the you can select here the donors. Now, as you can see here, for donors, you actually have the create new donor. Please, this is something that I really ask to be very careful about. To have the ability to add a new donor, from my perspective, is a very high responsibility. It requires a lot of responsibility from us because let me show you. I used to, when I was working with Sivai, we had this project that was supported by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So if I look for LDS here, I know that there's 3 different entries for Latter-day Saints. So we have Latter-day Saints, then the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, then the same thing, CHC. So before you create a new one, I really encourage you to come here and make sure that it's not there already. So you don't, so you contribute to having a clean database. And then we have the SDG goals. This is not very well updated. I know that we need to add more. It's not 20 anymore, but this is what we have right now in case you want to assign an SDG goal to your project. And then we have this field that says funds, and then it says number. Funny fact about this one, no one knows what this is. I don't know who created this. I don't know when this was created, but really no one really knows what this is. And as far as I know, no one is really using it. Then we have target group. Target group is another field that has a very historical component to it because the list is very specific to some donor specific needs. So if you don't really find value in this, again, don't worry about it. It will not affect the way that your project works. And then we have project notes. What do you put there? Basically anything else that you cannot put anywhere else. And we have at the end coordinates. The coordinates basically are really dependent on what you want to put there. For example, I know that many projects will have multiple locations where they are being conducted. So my recommendation in those cases, just add either the main location or you can add the country office location. It's really up to you because in this moment you can only add one set of coordinates. But again, this is information that is really nice to have. If you don't have that, it will not affect your project, and that information is not going anywhere. So don't worry too much about it. So I will click save, and my project will be created. Once that I have created the project, Alto will redirect me into the project section, and it will ask me, hey, do you want to check your project or do you want to see all of the projects that you have created? You see, I have here at the top the project I have created. If I just click here, it will redirect me to my project, but I want to show you how to find it. If I come here and I see my list of projects and I don't see my project, and maybe something like this will happen to you, you just have to click here. On the gray bar, you will have this big search button. Click there. And in the keywords, just type for the name of the project or the code of the project or something like that. I will say just, so we said it was Azra Europe Training, AET. I will click search. And there it is. There is my project. So I will open my project. And we have two more things to do, right? This is the last two things that we have to do for our compliance section and the most basic part of Alto, which is the money we have spent in the project and the beneficiaries. So I will start with the money part. In this section here, this is your project dashboard. You see right now it's empty because we have not really done anything. You go to more. Okay, let me stop here for 1 minute before I go to that part. I have just created my project. Does that mean that my project is already in the dashboard? No. I can guarantee you that if I go to the dashboard and I look for my project, it will not be there, even when all the information is correct. Oh, I just put it as an idea. Let me change that to active. By the way, by the person who was asking that they could not select the status, this is what I meant. You can just move this with the arrows and just click enter on whichever you want to update, and that should be it. It will not be there because I was telling you, Logalto is pulling the information from somewhere else, and then that information is being sent to Power BI. Then Power BI is requesting to the database to do some calculations. And then that information is coming back to Logalto. And then, sorry, to Power BI. And then Power BI is producing the dashboard. All this movement and calculations require some time. And this time is usually around 8 minutes. But this can take, sometimes it takes 3 minutes, sometimes it takes 5 minutes, sometimes it takes 11, 12, 13 minutes. So I always tell people the process usually takes 15 minutes. But it doesn't mean either that the project will appear 15 minutes after I create it. This process of updating the information that is being shown in the dashboard happens every hour. So right now for me, it's 9:33 p.m. So I just created this project. I have to wait until my 10 p.m. and then wait 15 more minutes. And then I can be sure that the project will be there. So remember, in case that you create a project and you don't see it there immediately, just be reassured that it will eventually appear because this process needs to happen. And you will see here at the bottom in the dashboard, there is this thing that says last refresh, UTC time zone, and it was at 8:05 in the morning. So you see the next refresh will be in 1 hour at 9 in the morning for UTC time. So now let's go to money. So we are here in the project dashboard, in the gray bar, remember, for me, it's the most important part. We click more, and then we go to this part that says project budget. Project budget is going to let us create this part in the dashboard that says spent, transfer, and total budget. Now, I have to be very honest when it comes to Logalto because I want to be very transparent on what works and what doesn't work. For right now, these three columns, spent, transfer, and total budget, are not very accurate in terms of what they are showing us. What I mean by this is that the theory says that transferred is the money that the country office received, either from another other office or from any other partner, let's say UN or something like that. Spent is the money from that transfer money that has actually been spent, burned, implemented. However, in reality, that is actually happening. But then we have this other one that says total budget. Total budget in theory should be, well, that, right? The actual budget of the project. But if you see here, this total budget is actually making a sum of the spent plus the transferred. So you see we have here 3,100,000 and then we have 200,029. So we see here the total budget, it's saying 3,329,000. Is that the total budget? Most likely not. But it's the way Logalto is working. So is that accurate? Is that correct? Most likely no. But we have to make the best of what we have, right? So my recommendation for you in this sense is to just work with spent money. Only work with spent and just report whatever you have actually spent. So you are here back in the project budget and you click add a project expense. Here, here you will see that the very first question, which is project, it will be automatically filled by Logalto. You will always have the project that you're working with automatically put there. And then you have the date. As well as with the project dates, you need to select the date that is actually on the year that you want it to be reported in the dashboard. Meaning, if today, which is April 20-something, 2026, I want something to appear in 2025, I need to select any of the days in 2025. If I want it to appear in 2026, I need it to report in any day of 2026. There is, again, no network standard on how often this should be done. I know that many people across the network actually just come here once in the life of a project or once every year and just report once. And that is sufficient for the dashboard, but I really encourage you to have more information there because you can do some really nice analytics with this information. I just have to tell you as well that this is not going to replace any of the finance any of the finance softwares that there could be. So it's just a nice complement for project management information, but not really for finance people. So select any day of the year. I will go for today. So my information will appear on 2026. And then this is very important. We have the first question here that says amount. I will say 10,000. And then it's asking me for currency. I will go for euro. And you should know everything that we put here in this field, Logalto will come and convert this into US dollars. So if you care about US dollars and if you have some reporting obligation in US dollars, I recommend that you report this section already in US dollars because if your project is very big in terms of funding and you report in any other currency and you have reported in the US dollars to someone, let's say you have reported $300,000 to someone, and then you are reporting in Logalto in euros, Logalto will most likely convert this in something different to what you have already reported. In most cases, that is no problem, but in some other cases, it will be very problematic because the more money you have in your project, again, let's imagine a project that is 300,000, the difference could be very big. It could go up to the thousands of dollars difference because in most cases, when you're working with a different currency, I know that you will have a set conversion rate. But Logalto will have a different conversion rate for every day. So most likely, it will be different to your actual conversion rate. So if you care about US dollars and if you have to report to someone in US dollars, I recommend that you put this in US dollars from here if you want everything to match perfectly. If you don't care about US dollars, if you're not reporting to anyone in US dollars, I guess that you can use your currency, the one that is most comfortable for you. I will be using euros for this example. And then you have the funding office. This is basically where the money is coming from. Remember, this is one of the fields that is nice to have. It will not affect you to not have it. Then we have the fund origin, which is basically external or local. Again, it will not affect you if you don't have this information. And then we have this one that says amount USD out of field. Please, and this is one of my key messages of today, don't put anything there, please. Never, ever, never, ever, ever. Never put anything there. Because this information contained in this field is the one that Logalto is going to put in the dashboard. So if you put anything here, whatever you put there, it's going to appear immediately in the dashboard. I know it's not the case for most of you or for all of you, but I just want to mention the implications of putting something there. There are some countries that have a currency that goes to the hundreds of millions, maybe to the billions, and that translates to some hundred of thousands of dollars, right? But people would come sometimes and they would put here an amount in their local currency, for example, an amount that is, let's say, 900 million. And Logalto will just assume that that information that you have just put there is in um, US dollars, and it's going to affect the whole dashboard. So you see here, I have here this division that has reported $107 million, right? So what happens here is that if you create a project that is showing 900 million, all of the other bars will go and look tiny, tiny, tiny like these ones, right? So make sure that you don't put anything there. Logalto will take care of it. In my experience, this field is completed around 20 to 25 minutes after you create the record. Also, that is relevant for you when you create the report. You want this information to appear in the dashboard immediately. It will not. You have to take into consideration the 25 minutes for this to appear, to be translated into US dollars, and then to the next hour and 15 minutes to appear in the dashboard. Because, this is the way it works right now. And just don't do things in a hurry because you will have to wait 1.5 hours for things to appear in the dashboard. Or if you're not in a hurry, if you're doing this on time, with time, just be patient with it, and I promise you, it will appear eventually. So we have then donation type. This is mandatory, so you have to choose in-kind or monetary. You cannot choose both. I recommend that if you have to choose both, you go for either other or you create separate records. And then we have the entry type. Entry type is basically what we just discussed, spent or transfer. And again, my recommendation right now is to use spent. So I'll click done and my record is created. Again, you see here the part that says USD, it's going to be looking empty. I actually have hidden from here because I don't want to look at it and I don't want to have the temptation to do something about it. I will make it appear again. You see, it's empty. I just have to be patient and it will appear in 20-25 minutes. But I can rest assured that this is going to appear. So I will go back now to my project and I will do the final part, that is my beneficiary number. So for beneficiaries, I will have to go to the log frame. So I go to log frame. And the first time that you open your log frame, you will see something like this. Maybe you only see one pair of primary and secondary demography, or in my case, you will see 4 pairs of this. This is related to specific requirements from different regions and from different offices. It may be the case as well that if you create a project for example, this case of Norway, you can see I have this automatic indicator that says number of schools supported. It's possible that maybe your office or your region where you will be implementing a project has some setup like that. Just keep that in mind. You just need to ask someone there if that's something that you actually need to report. But you can safely delete all the duplicates. But please, please, please keep at least one pair of primary and secondary demography, because primary demography is the one indicator that is going to go into the network's dashboard. So if you delete it, it's very easy to recover. You just have to click on indicator and you will have this section here that says indicator from library, and then you will be able to recover it from there. I will not be talking right now about the log frame because that's a topic for a different session. I will just tell you how to report your beneficiaries right now, and you will see that this is very easy. So you are in your log frame and you have one primary demography, right? You have this one, and in the gray bar, you have the log frame design, and then you have the data entry. We have to go to data entry. Again, our colleague Anne-Len will be talking in detail about log frame, so don't worry if you are not fully understanding everything that you are seeing. Again, right now, I am just focusing in reporting the primary demography. I want my primary demography to appear in 2026. So for 2026, if I want any number in my project for this year, I just have to select any of the quarters that are happening in 2026, either 1, 2, 3, or all of them. And we have these two options, actual quarterly, actual project to date. My recommendation is that if you are going to be reporting only once in your project life cycle, just report it anywhere you want. That's not the best practice, but if that's what you're going to be doing, just report it in any of the boxes. Preferably the one that says actual project to date, but again, that is not best practice. Just use that as last resource. But if you are going to be reporting every quarter, and I think that's ideal, I recommend that you always fill actual quarterly. Again, when we talk with and learn about log frames, we'll learn what this means. Just for now, just keep in mind, just reporting actual quarterly. And primary demography, and you click here, there, and you will see this. I know that most likely you are not working with this disaggregation. It's okay. This is another historical remnant of Localto. So if you don't have this information, don't worry. You just click this box, you check this box that says show not applicable. Now, let me tell you something that I have noticed that is very frequent. Many of you may be seeing, oh, sorry, maybe seeing something like, how do I make this look like that? Maybe some of you are looking at something like that. Just the top of the columns, and you are not seeing the rest of the information, and you have to scroll something like this. If this is your case and you are not seeing everything, if you have a PC, Windows computer, just click Control and the minus button. If you have a Mac, click Command and minus, and this will zoom out log alto, and you should be able to see all of the information. As well, if you look, so I'm using Safari. Again, I know it's not the best practice. I said I recommend to use Chrome, but I really just like Safari. In view, you have zoom in, zoom out. It's going to be exactly the same. Just zoom out and you will be able to see everything. So if I click show not applicable, you will see that for all of these disaggregations, female, male, sex indeterminate, I have a new column that says not applicable. For beneficiary status that I have disabled, indigenous, other refugees, I have another row that is not applicable. And if I scroll all the way to the right, I have not applicable for sex, not applicable for age group, and not applicable for beneficiary status. So it's right here in the right lower corner. My recommendation, again, for the purposes of having some nice information, I would recommend that you have at least female not applicable here, like total number of female, let's say 50. Total number of male, let's say 25. Sex indeterminate, let's say 25. This way you will be able to make some really nice disaggregations by female, males, and sex indeterminate if you are interested in having that disaggregation. If not, you can just come to the lower right corner where all the not applicable intersect and just put any number there. I will put 100. So now log alto is showing primary demography 200. I can do the same for this following quarter because I believe that's the best practice to reporting all of the quarters. I will go again to the intersection of all the not applicable. I will just make it 50. And now you see, I have an actual project to date of 250. Log alto will take care of the calculations for you. Just add the numbers in the different quarters in actual quarterly, and log alto will do the appropriate calculations for you. So at this moment, we have added our primary, we have added our beneficiaries for the project we created, and we have added the spent column. So our project now is compliant with everything that it's being required from us for the annual report and for the network's needs. And this is the most basic thing that we can do. If you have reached this point successfully, I can guarantee that your project is working well, and that once you do your log frame, it will work well, and your activities will work well, and all the things will work as they should. And your project will be visible to all the people that it should be visible. So we have 5 more minutes before we finish. I wanted to have a couple more questions, but before doing that, I want to open this file that I created. Let's wait for it to load. While it loads, let's take one question. I don't know if someone has a question or a colleagues, and then Joseph, if there's any question that you think will be interesting from the chat to share.
I think the question concerning budgets. So the question is, will the transferred, spent, and total budget columns in the dashboard be corrected so we can have correct data from all 3 fields? Also, How will projects that span 2 calendar years be handled? For example, projects running from June 2025 to June 2026.
Yeah. About the question on the budget, yes, it will be corrected. It is one of our priorities in LASOF. It should be corrected soon. And also about the years, well, you need to be a little bit more specific on what do you mean on how those will be handled. But basically, the project that we have just created is actually going for 3 years. So in terms of budget, you just need to create a a record for the relevant year, and it will be distributed to the relevant year. And when it comes to the log frame and the results, we will actually look at that when we see on the third session the log frames with Anlen. Any other question? Okay, so I will click here, share, and I will share this with you in the chat. So you have this link for this folder in this chat. We will be uploading the presentations that we have used in this folder. But also you have here this Excel document that says assignment contacts. And I will just add one note at the top, which will be assignment 1, which is create a project that is visible in the log frame, sorry, in the network's dashboard with primary demography and at least one budget line. This project should be visible for your own office, Norway, Africa region, and Inter-America. So this will be, so we will be able to actually check the work you did, and we can give you feedback. So also, as you can see here, there is a table here. So please open the link when you have a chance. Put your name here, put your email here, put your address and the project that you have created. So let's say this is my project. You just copy the link and you put it there. So it will look something like this. And then we will take it from there. So I will put as an example, atra.org.au. And then you can just leave it like that. And then we will take care of the giving you feedback. So the email is very important, so we can contact you in case there is some feedback. And I think that's it. We have 1 more minute. I don't know if we have some time for another question, or maybe we should close right now actually. So Anlen.
Yeah, I thought to maybe just mention that this setup is when there's a project in one country. It will be different if it's a multi-country program. Not very different, but we have to tweak it a little bit to work for a multi-country program. So this is for a one country project with one implementing country and one supporting country.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that is very relevant, and I think it will be very interesting when we have the session with you, and you can show us a little bit on how those work. Just a quick demonstration. Thank you very much. I know Joseph, Sibai, Thomas, if there is Jose, if there is something else we should mention.
Joseph, anything from you?
Not really, but just to add that the location data could also be used for maps. We can generate maps in Log Alto for those of us who are interested in showing where our projects are being implemented. Thank you. Over.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And
Jose?
I would like to
sorry,
say that
just
we should look into the permissions because there are a lot of problems with that, and maybe to send to the country directors how to set up this, the basic permission that they have to use for the people who are doing in the projects. This is a recommendation.
So Jose, are you able to do that from your end? Because I know Thomas has the list of all the participants, so that maybe you can check for them so that they'll be able to do their assignments.
Yeah, I couldn't do it in the past, but something has changed, and now I can make some changes. So maybe Esteban changed my role or something, and now I can change permissions for the users.
Okay, so please help us with that one. So everyone, if you are having permissions issues, just quickly get in touch with Jose today, tomorrow, so that you're able to work on your assignment. What Esteban has not mentioned is because we have our sessions on Tuesdays, we prefer that your assignments are done by Friday. It gives the trainers time to review all your assignments and provide feedback in time for the session for next week. Thomas, anything from your end?
Thank you. Thank you very much for the first session. So I think it's impressive to see what is possible. Now we have to work on the assignment, of course. We have also Jose with us, which is also definitely helpful, and all the time he is here to support you. So Esteban, thank you very much for taking time and for this precise explanation. And then we are meeting again in 1 week, the same time. And then we will see what's happened during these next days, and then we will continue together. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. And Esteban, I think this meeting link creates a chat. So if someone is working on their assignment and they have a quick question, they can actually just place it in the chat. And either Esteban or Enlen or Joseph or Jose, whoever is awake, will be able to respond so that you get real-time support. Am I correct, Esteban?
yeah.
Okay. Thomas, if you can just help us to